You're listening to the Happy Doc Student Podcast, a podcast dedicated to providing clarity to the often mysterious doctoral process. Do you feel like you're losing your mind? Let me and my guests show you how to put more joy in your journey and graduate with your sanity, health, and relationships intact. I'm your host, Dr. Heather Frederick, and today I welcome Andrew Kapp. Andrew holds one goal above all others: genuine and sustainable impact. He often focuses on topics that many find overwhelming and condenses them into actionable, more consumable content. A great example of this is his perennial bestseller, The Last Law of Attraction book you'll ever need to read. This book changed my life because in this short but powerful work, he fills a very important gap, addressing why people often don't get the results they are seeking, and then offering a menu of actions that take less than 5 minutes a day to do. And that is one of the reasons I'm so excited to introduce him to you today. Today, we're going to be talking about a whole lot of interesting things that are going to impact your life, but probably going to be focusing on gratitude and the law of attraction methods. And this is important, even if you don't believe in the law of attraction, and how you can use these to eliminate stress and more consistently access a mindset of ease and bring a more confident sense of being to each day so that you can complete that doctoral program. Andrew, welcome to the show.
Heather, thank you so much for having me. Really grateful to be here and really excited to see where we might take this conversation in service to your listeners and viewers.
I am too. And before we started recording, I shared that I was so honored to have you here and that I used your methods to manifest you being here. And so that's really exciting. There's some little evidence there of how successful and how easy your methods are, because I'm really busy too. And so that was something that I just knew my audience was going to appreciate. Usually I say, hey, why don't you spend a few minutes introducing yourself to the audience? But because we may have some listeners who don't know anything about the law of attraction or may have some preconceived notions or stereotypes about the law of attraction, I thought we'd start with you kind of operationally defining what is the law of attraction.
Absolutely. And it's a very interesting balance, because anytime I do an interview, I'm very cognizant of the fact that, the law of attraction is a very, polarizing term, in the sense that some people are really into it. Some people think it's weird. Some people think it doesn't really exist, whatever it might be. And my goal as we have this conversation will be like, listen, if you never believe in it, even after this conversation, I'm going to find a way to take the content and still serve you, because you can actually use what I'm going to talk about today, whether you are, on board with it or not. With that said, law of attraction, a good way of describing it is really the understanding that, everything is energy. I know we all feel solid. We look solid. Our senses tell us that, but we look at our hand under a microscope and we can see that we're really just, a combination of, vibrating frequencies, basically. All we are is energy. We're atoms. Every atom vibrates at a certain frequency, and like frequencies tend to vibrate in resonance with other like frequencies, which means, seeing as how your energy, I'm energy, the devices we're speaking on is energy, our thoughts are energy, you can strategically be more intentional about your thoughts and feelings, for example, as a way of creating a frequency that's going to magnify what you want back into your life, just in terms of its vibration, which also, by that same token, you can, attract bad things if you're vibrating on that kind of level. And again, some people, this clicks, and other people are like, well, that doesn't really make sense. That'd be nice, Andrew, but I've been thinking about that job promotion, for example, for over a year now, and there's no job promotion. Explain that one. To which I asked them, okay, cool. When you're thinking about that job promotion, are you thinking about the promotion with a sense of confidence and excitement and anticipation? Or are you thinking about the promotion all day, every day, with a sense of frustration and impatience and fear and doubt? Because if you're thinking from that negative standpoint, you're actually not thinking of the job promotion. you're thinking of the lack of the job promotion and you're reinforcing that vibration, which is why you're so upset to begin with. So this isn't just as simple as, think about, something and get it. It's more about how do you feel when you're thinking about that, because a positive emotion matching up with that thought is actually bringing it towards you, whereas a not so positive emotion, you're actually repelling what you want.
So, Andrew, when I first was told that this is how the universe worked and started exploring this about 8 years ago, I had two conflicting emotions. One was, oh no, because I realized that many of the thoughts I was thinking, the way I was thinking was a lower vibration. But at the same time, it was very empowering because I realized, wow, I have control over this. So if we really distill it to everything is energy, and like energy attracts like energy. And I always like to give the example of, think about times where things were really going well. Your relationships were harmonious and you were feeling good, and it just seemed to be like things were really flowing well. You can kind of come up with examples in your own life. The reverse is true as well, where things start to spiral and then one thing after another, and you're like, what is going on here? I just keep getting hit. And find examples where this is happening in your life. One of the questions becomes, well, hang on. We can't always be in a high vibration, right? Especially if you're a busy person, maybe you've got a family, a full-time job, you're a leader in your field, you're in graduate school, there's a lot of stress. You may often feel anxious, overwhelmed, stressed. So having listened to you on other podcasts and having listened to your book a number of times, because I really do love it that much, I know you're not out there saying, always be in a good mood.
Right. And a good reason for that is it's impossible anyway. So it's a funny thing because, okay, you learn this information for the first time, and let's assume you're really on board with it. Then you're like, okay, well, now I'm worried about my negative thoughts. And it's a trap it's a trap that you inadvertently fall into, because if you're feeling bad about feeling bad, well, then you're feeling bad and you're just further exasperating a problem that doesn't need to be there to begin with. And the really good news about all this, as I went down this rabbit hole and I did more research, is, scientists have done plenty of studies where they'll literally hook wires up to someone's brain and they'll analyze their brain waves and observe as they're feeling good, positive emotions versus bad, negative ones. And, studies vary in terms of what they're going to say, but the consensus has it that positive thoughts and emotions are at the very least hundreds of times, if not thousands of times, more powerful than negative ones. Meaning technically, and I've had this in my own experience, I can quantify myself. If you take just a few minutes out a day to take a breather, to intentionally feel good, whether you're putting yourself through a visualization or you're scripting out positive things, or you're just feeling any sense of gratitude, those 5 minutes are going to carry more weight and more power than any of the negative thoughts and feelings that follow in the day later on. And if you are consistent in this way, if you're going at 5 minutes every single day, they are accumulating, more forward ground, so to speak. So it's going to get to a point where the negative thoughts and negative feelings and negative circumstances, you're going to notice and experience those less and less and less as you go over time. So this isn't a thing where we're looking for a perfect life where you're never upset. It's more of a thing where we're being practical and strategic in injecting and inducing and bringing in more positivity, so as to create that kind of level of momentum where that is more of the rule rather than the exception. And just really quick on this note, let's pretend that the universe doesn't exist. Let's pretend that there isn't a law of attraction. Well, let's be practical about this, especially people that are in higher education. The power and immense influence of your subconscious mind. If you're not speaking to the universe, you're certainly speaking to your subconscious mind and all of your experiences. And that, even in this day and age, even with all the artificial intelligence and the chat GPT and all that stuff, your subconscious mind is still the most powerful supercomputer known to mankind, known to womankind, known to everyonekind, right? So going back to that job promotion example, the reason that job promotion happens, if you don't even believe in the universe, is when you are feeling good, feeling positive about that promotion and instructing and programming your subconscious mind, your subconscious mind is going to make the calculations that you need in order to bring that about. Meaning, without even meaning to, you are going to find yourself carrying yourself in a way that is influencing and getting people to react better to you. You're going to have a certain level of your vocal inflection, your eye contact. Ideas are going to pop into your head that impress your boss in the meeting. Just the way you go about life, the way you're excited about, going into work on a Saturday, as opposed to feeling bad about it. The way you were excited about being in that meeting and getting things done, the way you're writing emails better, the way everything about you is just better on a higher level that's being governed by your subconscious mind. And in my humble opinion, also universal infinite intelligence to bring these things about. So whether it's subconscious mind, whether it's the universe, just 5 minutes a day, you are literally building a blueprint of happiness and success that whatever or whoever is out there listening is going to create for you, so long as you are working in harmony with that, rather than doubting and being frustrated and being impatient along the way.
I love that good news, Andrew, because life is happening around us every day. And this sense of peace, really, that I have when I say, okay, I'm going to spend my 5 minutes. Sometimes it's 10. Sometimes, if I've got the time, because it's so enjoyable, it just goes on for a much longer period of time than 5 minutes. But to know that I am then emitting a much more powerful vibration than when there's hours of my day where I am feeling stressed and overwhelmed, and just knowing that I'm taking action gives me hope that things are coming my way in the way that I would intend them to happen. So as you're talking, I was thinking, oh, okay, well, now we're down this trail and I haven't even given you a chance to explain to people what was going on in your life that kind of triggered you on the path to learning about the law of attraction and then uncovering or discovering this missing piece.
Yeah, well, it's crazy to even think about it. This is the first time I'm saying it in this way, but doing the math, I learned about the law of attraction about 19 years ago. And I was a young, struggling, entrepreneur looking for, I was basically exploring and going down the road of all these different modalities of personal development, self-help, whatever you might want to call it, looking for the secret to happiness and success. And, law of attraction was just one of many modalities that I was kind of dipping my toe in the pool and seeing what it was all about. And I've said often, to be really candid, when I first learned about it, it was very inconsistent. It was very hit and miss. For as many as little successes I had, there was way more failures. And I kind of looked at the law of attraction as just being this unreliable thing, to which I'd understand and figure out a couple of years later, it was actually me who was being unreliable because, after learning this and 4 years of, knocking my head against the wall and trying to sort things out, I basically got to this point where that business that I was trying to get off the ground, it was absolutely imploding. There was nothing I can do to kind of make it work. I was also in the middle, or basically on the tail end, of a 3-year relationship that I also was not, really serving the right way because I was so desperate to get my business off the ground. And everything basically came to a head where within the span of just a couple of days, I kind of gave up the company and lost my, my girlfriend at the time, like all within that period. And I tell people, it sounds dramatic. I basically lost what feels like 90% of my life in the less than a week. And I had to look in the mirror and say, listen, Andrew, something's not working here. You wasted your 20s. The relationship's gone. The company's now gone. Like, you have to do something. And I had this weird simultaneous, epiphany and moment of indignation where I remembered that whenever I actually did those manifesting methods that I learned about in all those law of attraction books, things would start to improve before I stopped doing them. And I thought, you know what? I don't care what happens. I don't care when it happens, why it happens, how it happens. I don't care about any of that. Let me just go all in with this thing. And when I say all in, understanding human nature, I don't mean all day, every day, because I knew myself and I knew that that was not sustainable. But I was upset and motivated enough that I can go back to 5 or 10 minutes a day of, gratitude, visualization, scripting, and I can be smart about it. I can be strategic, and I can modify those methods that I learned in a way that would be better for the way my personality is, the way I actually function and respond to life. Let me make this so that these methods, like you said before, are so fun and so enjoyable that I actually look forward to doing them so that I don't stop this time. The game plan here was to finally stop stopping. And when I finally made that decision, I made that choice, Heather, it was almost like a movie where everything changed. Like within 2 weeks, I felt not 100% better, but way better than anyone with a broken heart had any business feeling. Within 3 months, I was in a brand new, way healthier relationship. Within 4 months, at that point in my life, at least, I was making way more money than before. And within 6 months, everything was different. I was waking up happy, fulfilled. I was in the best shape of my life. Like everything had turned around for me. And I finally learned the hard way, and people shouldn't have to learn the hard way, but they often do. I learned the hard way that whatever this thing is, call it the law of attraction, call it the universe, call it me misidentifying the power of my subconscious mind, or call it something that I haven't figured out yet. This stuff works when you work it. And it was only like ever since that point, I've governed my life around that understanding. And things have not been perfect, but they were always easier. And whenever it was time for a level up or a quantum leap, it was through this way by which I achieved it.
We're really honing in here on the need to be consistent. And for me, what your book brought was this idea that I'm all about putting joy in the journey, having more fun. You really encourage the reader, play with these around 20 different methods that you give. All of them can be done in 5 minutes or less a day. I mean, some of them are really quick and they're just seconds long. Explore these. It's like a menu, right? Explain it as I'm not giving you this, 1,000-piece puzzle and telling you need to put all the pieces in this very specific way. I'm inviting you to find the ones that feel good for you and do those, because that's part of that energy that you're putting out there. It can't feel like a chore. It can't feel like you're doing it wrong. It needs to feel fun for it to work.
Yeah. And this is basically on my own personal understanding of the way I've gotten in my own way. I understand that the more personal an issue is, the more actually universal it is. So I figured, well, listen, if I'm lazy, if I find ways of talking myself out of this, which we can talk about the reason for that, well, then I have to find a way to hijack the experience and make it so easy and so enjoyable. And as a busy person myself, so convenient to my energy and my schedule that it's very easy to do every day. That's the way you've got to work it. And it was very important to me in the book it's very unique, I think, in the sense that I'm taking people down a journey that seems very ordinary on the surface. And you even said it's a quick read. It's 200 pages. So it's not like a short book, but it's a quick read because I designed it to flow that way, because I understood it's not about my expertise. It's not about how smart I want to sound as an author. It's about how do I deliver this specific information in a way that's going to be seamless and people can dive into it and not hesitate and just enjoy it. Because I know based on my own life experience that all right, this works when you work it, but how are you going to work it? You have to make it fun and convenient. And that's why, if you want to do a half-hour a day, be my guest, you just don't need to. To this day, I mean, there will be days where I'll do more here and there, but for the most part, I only commit to 5 minutes or so. Sometimes a little more, sometimes a little less. And that's been more than enough for me, at least in my life, and in the lives of a lot of readers who've reported wonderful results just doing that much and nothing more.
Now, Andrew, you brought up the reasons that we won't remain consistent, and your explanation is so wonderful in the book. I'm going to say, okay, readers, check out the book, because what I'd love to spend time with you doing is talking about some of these methods so people can wake up tomorrow with a couple of different ideas and give it a shot. Well, how do you feel about that?
Yeah, sure. And I'll tell you that the first one that comes to mind, this isn't actually, usually on an interview, this isn't the first one I teach. But for this specific interview, understanding your audience and how much they have on their plates, this is such a fast one of all the fast ones. I figure this is an easy one. And that's the gratitude blitz. And what a gratitude blitz is basically you're going to set a timer for however long you want. You'll set it for 1 minute, for 3 minutes, for 5 minutes. And until that timer goes off, you're just going to try and think of things to be grateful for in your life. And it's one of those things, at least in my experience, where, the first 20 seconds, no matter what you list, you're like, all right, whatever. But as you get into 40 seconds and 60 seconds and 90 and 120, as you get more and more, and you're actually going down the list of all the things you have to be grateful for, you feel like $1,000,000. And that really is the point. And I'm sure it's very easy for people to think on their own of things to be grateful for. But just as a little preview, if you need a little help getting started, the thing I always come down to that everybody has, no matter what problems are going on, is that heart that's beating in your chest every second of every minute of every hour of every day of every week of every month of every year of every decade that you've been alive, tirelessly, selflessly pumping blood, nutrients, oxygen to all the other parts of your body that are serving you. What about whatever device that you're listening to this on or watching this on? How much of your life do you run off of that device? How much for studying? How much is that device there for you? Just every single part of your body, your hands, your fingers, your feet, your toes, your legs, your arms, your brain, your sense of smell, your sense of taste, touch, your vision, your hearing. Like, there are countless things, to say nothing of all your friends, all the people that have looked out for you, your mentors, people that have done favors, whatever job you have right now, and the paycheck that's sustaining you as you go through your higher education or anything else. There are countless things to be grateful for, even in the midst of whatever frustrations or disappointments are there as well, which everyone experiences. And when you go through that again, as you flow through it for your own specific life, you feel amazing. And that's the point. You feel amazing, and then you get on with your day. And then the next day you do it again and you feel amazing and you get on with your day. And each day, even with things that annoy you or trouble, there are fewer and fewer of them as you are fueling more momentum, more energy into this process.
And there's a lot of hard science to back up practices of gratitude. And I love this blitz. I had actually written that one down. Andrew is one that I wanted to talk about because I did think it would be so easy for this audience to adopt. So you could be waiting for your cup of coffee or cup of tea. You could be writing it. You could be talking it. You could be sending a text message to someone that you know and love about it. But if you think about how many of us start our days feeling already overwhelmed, our feet hit the ground, and a lot of my audience will say, I wake up feeling stressed and already like I'm beaten down. Like, I already know I'm not going to get my to-do list done today. So I'm asking you, what would it be like if you started each day with, just like Andrew's suggesting, a minute? Do it in a way that is fun for you. So maybe you're sharing it with your children over the breakfast table, or your partner, or you're writing it in a beautiful journal that you bought. Do something that makes it fun and enjoyable so you're looking forward to it. Oh, I get to do my minute of gratitude or my 3 minutes of gratitude, whatever works for you. Do this for a couple of days. Just like Andrew said, you don't have to believe in this stuff. See what happens.
Yeah.
The proof is in the pudding.
And the really cool thing is, again, let's pretend I'm lying or I'm wrong, and there is no law of attraction or no universe, no whatever. Just the feeling of gratitude in the moment is a win in and of itself, because it's 5 minutes of your life and your day where you're not worried about your classes. You're not worried about your job. You're not worried about your spouse. You're not worried about your kids. You're not worried about the troubles of the world. You just, that 5 minutes, a reprieve. It's just relief from what's going on. That alone, meaning if nothing ever really came of this, there's no magic, even though I know there is, and no huge result, even though I know there is one on the tail end. If none of that happened, just spending this time for yourself, you have already won. And, hint, hint, wink, wink, you haven't bought my book. You haven't spent money anywhere else. This hasn't cost you a single penny. So it's cost you nothing, and it's given you everything. If just for those few minutes a day, why wouldn't you try it? Why wouldn't you do it?
And here's what's going to be interesting, audience. If you say, that's it, I'm going to give it a shot. And if you start and you stop a few days later, then I am going to encourage you to get Andrew's book and find out why that might be, so that you can do a little course correction. Andrew, the other thing I wanted to talk to you about is scripting, because I am big on writing. I love to write. It's one of my favorite things to do. I've often suggested this to students, but you've got some other options when we talk about scripting. So maybe talk a little bit about what that is, and then different ways that you can do it so that it is fun.
Yeah, for sure. And if anyone's interested, on my YouTube channel, it's just Andrew Kap, K-A-P, I have an interview with someone who she basically scripted her way to over $1 million in like 16 months, if I remember correctly. It's a great interview to go through. Basically, scripting, as I define it, it's basically just journaling your life in the present tense as if you're already living your dream life, and you put whatever details you want. And you can handwrite it out, although even for me personally, my hand cramps, so I don't do that a lot. If that doesn't work, you can type it. And if that doesn't work, like you said, you could speak it aloud. So it's really just, in any format of communication, writing it, typing it, saying it, you are detailing in whatever level of vivid and visceral detail that kind of comes to mind. You can be as general, specific as you want, as long as it feels good. Whatever you want. It could be around money. It could be around relationships. It could be about anything. And technically, I don't handwrite personally because that's not my style, but I script every single day. In fact, the method that I do every day for myself, again, this is me knowing my personality, my schedule, what works for me, is I pull out my phone and I open up the recorder app and I make a recording. I make a message of all the things in my life that I'm grateful for. Again, everything's in the present tense, even though I will also include future things. Like right now, I'm very grateful to say that the book has sold over 100,000 copies. And I'll mention that. I'll mention how grateful I am for my readers and my customers, my listeners, my subscribers. But also, I will say how grateful I am for 1 million copies sold, even though technically right now that is not current physical reality. And what I'm going to do is I take that message and I'm thankful for everything and I send it to a friend across the country who in turn does the same thing for me. And we have this really wonderful dynamic where sometimes he sends it first, sometimes I send it first. And we've installed this little hint of social pressure to keep ourselves on point. And we're fueling one another with all of our wins, with all of our victories, with all of our good news as we continue to do this. There's times where we send each other a message and we don't even know if it's real good news yet or not. We don't know if it's happened or not because the level of conviction, the level of certainty, and the level of pure bliss and gratitude that's conveyed in those messages, it's everything. And again, it's such an easy thing to do. That's what I do. And that is a modified version of scripting, which I can't even begin to overstate how powerful it can be, whatever format, if anyone's willing to dive in and try it, because I don't know if it's sending a signal to your subconscious, to the universe. I don't know what it is, but there is this power to writing it down or typing it out or saying it out that you can't really even quantify in the right way. But there's a power there that's unexplained. It's inexplicable, but it's there. And I highly recommend people give it a try. Again, don't rush it. You might get something the next day. You may get something a month later. That part doesn't matter. What matters is you feel good while you're doing it because that's how you actually get what you want.
And who doesn't want to feel better, right? Regardless of what's going on, all of your techniques bring a lightness, bring a levity. I've tried them all to figure out which ones were really resonating with me. And it's interesting. I find some days I'm drawn to one and the other. And I love this idea that I can kind of pick a rabbit out of the hat. Which one is going to happen today? Which one's resonating with me? I love that diversity. But to have something that's simple when people may be feeling just so overwhelmed, I think is just it really is a gift. It's a gift. And what I'm going to recommend that the audience try is I love this idea of recording something or texting something to maybe a peer who's in a similar situation, who's also in graduate school. But every day that you sit down to do your schoolwork or to write your dissertation or doctoral project, what would it be like if you took just a minute or two, and whether you're speaking it, typing it, or writing it, scripting, where do you want to start? Do you want to start where they've just approved my dissertation and I'm preparing for my oral, and so I'm going shopping for the outfit that I'm going to wear, or they just called me Dr. Fill in the blank and I'm thinking about updating my resume right now, and I'm thinking about those 5 jobs that I've been waiting to apply for, or whatever it is. What would it be like? How might your energy around your schoolwork or working on your research changed if you spent just a little bit of time being there as your future self and enjoying that and feeling what that felt like?
Yeah. And there's so many opportunities for this specific kind of life. So for example, if I were a doctoral student, I would have gratitude and write out and phrase out gratitude for, those people that are waiting for me, that are desperate to hire me. or the people with that grant who are just looking for the perfect person. They're just waiting for me to go on their doorstep. Those people that are just wondering, like, where is this person? I'd also express gratitude for the flow and creativity and ease with which I'm writing my dissertation. I'm so grateful for the fact that once I go for a couple of minutes, I get into a flow and it just pours out of me. I'm grateful for all the ideas and all the creativity and the unique angle and hook that I have that's going to make this dissertation something that those people that review it, they will never forget. I'm grateful for all the support that I have in this experience, for all the other people, whether they're in my class or not, that are sharing this kind of experience. I'm grateful to myself for my creativity, but also for my tenacity and my commitment to myself of going down a road that a lot of people never even think to do, never even bother to do. I'm grateful to myself for that level of energy, for that level of care for myself and the world around me, and where I'm going to take my degree and where I'm going to move that and how the value I'm going to give for myself, for others, for my family, for everyone. That's the kind of stuff I would be scripting out, because it just, think about it. Hopefully that resonates and hopefully that fuels. And if you're wondering, like, well, what do I write about? Write about the things that have been frustrating you and just flip them. Whatever's annoying you right now, what would you say if it was the exact opposite? And try that.
And I love that tip. I love that tip, because it's always easier for people to tell you right away all the things that aren't working.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So you could just take each one and flip it.
Yeah.
It's so easy for me to find all the articles I need to support my thesis. My committee gets feedback back to me in record time. My fingers just seem to type sentences magically. I hardly have to think about them. Whatever is coming up against you, you just flip it and start there. So it's really not difficult.
Yeah. And what if the stress that you were and the worry that you were experiencing over how your dissertation will be received is actually the necessary fuel for pushing you just far enough that you change the game and you provide something that is just unforgettable? So what if that stress is an annoying yet, high quality problem of yours?
I love that. I love that. I'm grateful that I'm just stressed about this enough, because it's so important to me that it's pushing me to be the best version of me as a researcher, as a writer.
Mm-hmm.
And Andrew, everything that you have to say in your book and on your YouTubes, I'll be sure to have those links in the show notes below. Really meets people where they are. And you might think, wow, the last law of attraction book you'll ever need to read, that's quite a bold statement. But I'm here to say, I believe your book is the last law of attraction book I'll ever need to read. I wish it had also been the first. It wasn't. And I got some really great, interesting things out of the other books that I read before. It kind of, laid a foundation, so to speak, for me. But when I saw that title come up on Audible, I thought, well, now, wow, really?
It's like, this better be good.
Well, okay, let's see. Well, plus there were just so many darn reviews. I really do make a lot of my purchasing decisions based on reviews and what other people have to say. And they were just so compelling. I thought, well, again, I've got nothing to lose here. And I'm so glad that I did. And I'm so, again, honored that you were willing to come on the show today and share some very practical, actionable things that people can do to feel better, be less stressed, go about their day more confidently. But before we wrap up the show, I'd love to ask, do you have a favorite quote or some final words of wisdom you'd like to leave with the audience?
So it's interesting because, there's no perfection of when, this episode, this interview will come out. I am working on a new book right now, different than this. And I came upon a quote that I'm incorporating into it. And the quote was by this person named Brent Smith. And it's, your new life will cost you your old one, which I interpret as, being willing to let go of the version of you that allows stress and negativity to overtake you, and to instead become a person that uses that as fuel to a point where the stress no longer even becomes necessary. And you're just fueled by your motivation and your anticipation. So it's like really the message I get is being willing to move forward into a higher version of yourself in your life that's actually been reaching for you and calling to you and waiting for you this entire time. Like if anyone's wondering, like, when's it going to happen? Technically it's now. You just have to be willing to go for it. So that's the quote I'd want to leave people with, but I'd also want to leave them with gratitude for listening or watching today. And also you, Heather, for having me and for making me feel so welcome on the show and for asking me such good questions that hopefully poured a lot of useful content for your audience. I really appreciate you.
Well, Andrew, ditto. And again, thank you for taking time out of your busy day to share things that, again, are simple and easy, but fun so that people can experience more joy in their doctoral journey. I am forever grateful. Thanks so much for listening, and I look forward to connecting with you on the next episode. Until then, if you're looking for more ways to invite joy in your journey, check out the free resources at expandyourhappy.com. You'll find downloads like an article I wrote titled, The Doctoral Journey, 12 Things You Need to Know That They Probably Won't Tell You. You'll also find a PDF that organizes all podcasts by the 7 steps detailed in the Happy Doc Student Handbook, which you can also find on the website. Finally, if you're looking for Happy Doc Student swag, I've got that too. Don't forget to subscribe to the podcast and YouTube channel, and if you want to make my day, rate and review so that together we can change the way doctoral education is delivered and experienced. Hey, one more thing. Just a quick reminder that the information, opinions, and recommendations presented in this podcast are for general information only.